All right. So please say hello to Vincent Mirabelli. With a background in strategic business analysis and organizational development, Vincent is every organization's secret agent for saving time, money, energy, and people. Named a top 10 thought leader on culture, change, and business management by Thinkers 360, he is a certified project management professional and certified business analysis professional. Through keynote speaking and customized workshops, Vincent empowers leaders and organizations to develop cultures of high performance and continuous improvement while working with clients across diverse industries and sectors. Vincent believes that's the way it always has been done, are the seven deadliest words in business today. As an agent of change, Vincent seeks to help audiences understand the why behind the problem and then initiate action to enact changes as required. Guaranteed to be entertaining, humorous, and transformational. Vincent teaches us that to succeed in business today, we must take an authentic and empathetic approach, creating organizational processes and cultures where everyone feels seen, heard, valued, like a true part of the team. Vincent believes everyone wants to feel like they're having an impact and making a difference, just not at the expense of their happiness. He shows us that the organizations who truly understand this are the ones that will stand out from the crowd and last for years to come, no matter the challenges and setbacks they encounter. There is a better way. We're very excited to have Vince come speak to us on environmental, social, and governance principles that can make a difference in our organizations. Without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Vincent Mirabelli.
Thank you, Randy. Randy Innes, everyone. Yay. Um, After that intro, we're out of time. So what questions do you have for me?
I'm so sorry.
Pause for laughter.
That's,
Okay.
that's because you have, I mean,
No,
I mean,
no, that's on
so
me.
much to
That's on
say.
me. No, that's
I
on
could have
me. I'm
said
just
more. I could have said more. I didn't even mention how you're an amazing LinkedIn instructor and all the resources you have out there. I mean,
oh.
I could really go on.
All right. The check is in the mail. Thank you, Randy. Uh Welcome everyone to the BA's Guide to ESG Tools, Techniques, and Trends. Really excited to be rejoining the South Florida chapter. I think the last time I was with y'all was about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. Um, and this is also my first real event of the year, so I'm really excited to be joining you to talk about a topic that is really important to me. I recently completed recording a LinkedIn learning course on ESG for BAs. It's a really important topic, personally, one that I'm really excited for, and one that I really see becoming more and more prominent in our careers and in our organization. So I'm trying to be and trying to get us ahead of the curve so that we can be ready to support our organizations in being really advocates for ESG adoption and execution. Before we begin, though, I want to start with a joke. What's big, getting bigger, and turning green? And I will remind all of you, we're a professional organization, so please keep your minds out of the gutter. What's big, getting bigger, and turning green? Please feel free to come off mute if you got an answer. Funny answers, anything that makes me laugh, I will appreciate. I'll give you a second here. No one wants to bite? All right. I'll give you the answer. I'll give you the pass. It's business. And as a result, it's business analysis. Um, Businesses are going full in on the green initiative. And what I want to talk about today, it, by the way, I recognize it's not a funny joke. It's meant to be very groany and get you def, to lower the defenses. Um, but seriously, businesses are getting much more involved in the ESG world and in the green world. Now, when I first started as a BA, environmentalism was the thing. It was all about, making the world a better place from an environmental standpoint. And I'm really thrilled at how that has developed, because ESG is sustainability, but it's something much bigger and much more business focused. So today, let's talk about what ESG is and why you need to pay attention. Let's focus on some of the ways that we can integrate ESG into our current ways of working, and hopefully we can get prepared for the future, and not only be prepared for, but really take an active lead in preparing ourselves and our organizations for the future of business, which includes ESG. So I've used that acronym a couple of times. It's quite easy to think of ESG as just another acronym, but it's actually so much more. So when we boil it down, ESG is about restoring balance to the natural environment, to our organizations, and to our communities. And we do this while still bringing growth and innovation and all the good things that we do. So to answer the question, what is ESG? And if you can read, it's on the screen. It's the environmental, the social, and the governance factors that collectively comprise its bedrock. Environmental considerations typically encompass your organization's impact on the planet. So things like your carbon footprint, your energy efficiency, your commitment to sustainable practices. So, for example, any companies that incorporate renewable energy sources or implement eco-friendly production methods, that aligns with a positive environmental practice. Social factors assess your company's impact on society. And this goes beyond those traditional, corporate social responsibility initiatives that always include any of I get my annual report from the companies that I've invested in, and I get the CSR report, which is supposed to make you feel good. But the CSR report is more than just responsibility. It's about employee well-being. It's about diversity and inclusion. It's about community engagement. And research has shown that businesses that display strong social performance actually exhibit better financial performance as well. And they have reduced risk in their operations. So kind of a win-win. Governance, which is the third pillar, focuses on an organization's internal structures and controls. It includes corporate governance, ethical business practices, and transparency. And companies with strong governance frameworks, again, also often overperform or outperform their competitors, as they're positioned well to deal with the challenges that modern businesses face with so much risk. And I mean, if we want to loop in AI and all of the other changes that are happening into the world, I mean, one of the things that I know is stopping a lot of organizations from accelerating their use of AI is their governance structures. Now, I don't say that as a detrimental thing. I actually see that as a good thing. AI is still very new. We're still in its infancy. Coincidentally, I also just recorded a course at LinkedIn for AI for BAs. So, look out for that as well. But one of the things that's holding them back is this governance and making strong, solid, and unique decisions, because everybody's governance is a little bit different. And what that does is it fosters a level of trust with those organizations, that they're not going to just jump in and dive in and chase the next shiny thing. So now we know what ESG is. The next question that we need to ask is, so what? And that's totally a fair question. Why does this matter? And specifically, why does this matter to you? Or why should this matter to you? So first, ESG is not just a trend. ESG is a fundamental shift in how businesses operate. And in an era where enterprises are facing more and more scrutiny for their impact on the world, ESG gives us a framework for responsible and sustainable practices. Back in my day, and don't be fooled by the boyish good looks. I'm probably older than you might think. But back in my day, when a company did something bad or behaved in a way that you didn't like or you didn't appreciate or you had a problem with, your recourse was fairly limited. You couldn't raise a lot of noise. You just couldn't. Now there's so much more focus on being a good corporate citizen because we have this thing called the internet, and specifically social media. One of the first big stories that I remember that impacted my view of the importance of ESG was, probably the late 90s. The internet was just sort of becoming a thing, and it was the late 90s with reporting on Nike's poor vendor track record. So there was a lot of controversy with Nike employing sweatshops. And because of this new awareness, they had to take action. And so there's so much more focus. Now you can imagine as social media developed, if I have a problem with a company, or I observe something that doesn't sit well with me, I can take to social media and leverage my audience, but also amplify that message to gain support and really call out those companies. So we've been empowered. Now, sometimes we take social media to a dark place. I'm not going there, but this is why ESG is becoming more and more prevalent. So you should care because it impacts your organization. Now, your organization cares because your customers care. Customers are increasingly making decisions based on a company's commitment to ESG principles. Now, they recognize that is probably going to cost them more. They're going to pay a premium for that better product, but they're more and more willing to pay that premium to get goods, services, products from sustainable brands. They see it as their duty. And that really underscores the business case for ESG. It's not just about doing good, it's about meeting the expectations of our customers in an increasingly conscientious market. Because of that, ESG also matters from an investor perspective. Investors are placing greater and greater emphasis on ESG factors, and sustainable investing has become mainstream. There are index funds for the most sustainable companies that trade publicly. And evidence suggests that those companies that have those high ESG scores outperform their counterparts. You have a major role to play in leveraging your analytical skill to help your organization prepare for the future. And that future is coming fast. Not AI fast. Well, no, still AI fast. But it's coming at us really, really quick. So the time to get ready, the on-ramp to the highway, is right now. Now, for you, it starts with understanding how your knowledge and your skills can be harnessed to drive a positive organizational change that can contribute to a more sustainable future. And there's 5 key ways that you can support ESG in your organization. So they include requirements, elicitation, and management. So identifying, analyzing, documenting requirements, conducting impact assessments. So understanding the impact of ESG initiatives on the various facets of your business, upstream, downstream, throughout the supply chain. Collaborating on solution designs. So working with cross-functional teams to find solutions that address organizational requirements and align with ESG principles. Stakeholder management is about building consensus amongst your internal and your external groups to ensure diverse perspectives are considered. And finally, change management, which is the human side of change. I have this conversation with PMs all the time when we talk about change management. They look at change and apologies to PMs. This is not disrespectful. They look at change management from a what's changing in the system, in the process perspective. BAs do that, but we also look at what's changing for people. So we much more capture the human side of change, and we ensure that the change in attitudes and behaviors is supportive and reflective of these new ESG initiatives and practices. All of that should sound really familiar to you. This is the work you're already doing. So in essence, supporting ESG doesn't require you to change anything about the work that you do. All you have to do is expand your view to ensure that you're looking through the lens of the environmental, the social, and the governance impacts on your projects, on your work, and on your initiatives. So this is the stuff we do. Let's go into a little bit more detail on the stuff that we do. So I did some research. I've been doing a lot of research as part of my role with Infotech Research Group, specifically in the BA space. And one of the stats that I came across was around requirements management and how prevalent it is in the work that we do. It's been estimated that about 72% of all of our work is related to requirements planning, elicitation, and management. So you can imagine that that also plays a fairly significant role in ESG initiatives as well. So our first step in requirements elicitation and management is about engaging stakeholders across the organization. Engaging internal teams like your leadership team, your product team, your process teams, your application teams, but also engaging your external entities like customers, suppliers, and any regulatory bodies. We do this through our traditional elicitation techniques like interviews, surveys, workshops. These are all great opportunities to ensure that stakeholders have a comprehensive understanding of our sustainability ESG expectations, but also any concerns and also any aspirations. Now that means in order for you to elicit that from your stakeholders, you need to understand them yourself. Next, our focus on clarifying requirements, which lays the foundation for any project that meets sustainability goals and aligns seamlessly with our broader business strategies. Again, we're going to use our traditional verification validation methods to get that done. So this is the same, it's just different. Now, you'll probably hear me say that a lot with all of the remaining topics. It's the same, it's just different. Once we've elicited our requirements from our stakeholders, we can prioritize those requirements based on factors like feasibility, impact, and alignment with our ESG goals. And this becomes the roadmap for our development and our implementation phase. This guides us to successful execution. But it starts with, as most of our work does, starts with requirements. Next, let's talk about conducting impact assessments. When we look at research from the World Economic Forum, they found that companies that consider the environmental and the social aspect of their business decisions were more resilient and better positioned for long-term success. And that underscores the importance of impact assessments and understanding the impact of our decisions as it relates to ESG. It helps us in our decision making, and it contributes to the overall sustainability of our organization. Also contributes to the overall resilience of our organization. So let's look at a couple different impact assessments that you should be aware of and that you should be leveraging as part of supporting your organization's ESG goals. First, let's talk about cost-benefit analysis. When we do a cost-benefit, what are we looking at? We're looking at the costs and we're looking at the benefits. Fairly self-explanatory. Now, though that cost benefit should include your direct costs, the cost that you pay, but it also should include indirect costs. Indirect costs come through lost sales, loss of market share, poor customer satisfaction, and this is where ESG is so important. So things like technology upgrades, employee training, process changes, all of these bring a cost. And some potential benefits we might realize include operational efficiencies, improved brand reputation, and improved stakeholder relationships. So first, we quantify the financial impacts. Essentially, what are the monetary values to the costs and to the benefits? And then we can try to quantify the non-financial, such as the environmental impact, the social impact, and the governance, the costs associated with and saved from governance enhancements. By incorporating the financial and non-financial aspects, you can get a comprehensive view of the total potential cost and benefit associated with your ESG initiatives. Next, let's talk about scenario planning. Scenario planning is something that I am a big advocate for, and something that I talked about in one of my other, I'm going to keep plug, one of my other LinkedIn learning courses, Essential Techniques for Enterprise Analysis. That one is out, so if you want to go take that one, it's still my favorite course that I ever put together. And it really looks at, how do we look through different scenarios to understand the economic, the regulatory, and the social impact of our decisions. So it's a challenge because it requires you to project forward in the future. If we do this, then what? Then what? Then what? Then what? Now, that's not something that we're traditionally asked to do as BAs. As a strategic enterprise BA, that was something I loved doing, was creating these scenarios of, what might happen. And if you want to hear the story of someone that called a global pandemic in January of 2022 or 2020, yeah, man, it's been 4 years. Talk to me after this, because I did, as I was supporting the planning of a 3-year business transformation, and said, what if the world shuts down because of a virus in January 6, 2020? I have witnesses. But that was about looking forward and saying, well, what if? Thinking through and projecting out what if. And what that does is it helps you prepare for the future. But not only the future, potential futures. This is like Doctor Strange when he was projecting out, okay, how are we going to beat Thanos? And by the way, if you haven't seen Endgame, like, spoiler alert, Iron Man dies, and that was the only scenario where they could beat Thanos. But that was Doctor Strange looking out and saying, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to be successful? And then pursuing the path that made the most sense, that was going to give him the highest possibility of success. So we're projecting out multiple futures so that we can plan and mitigate the potential pitfalls that might be associated with those futures. The last one is about risk assessments, and risks includes, falling out of compliance with legislation and regulatory bodies, suffering reputational damage, or suffering operational disruption in our supply chain and in our value chain. So, as we're doing these risk assessments, we want to assess the potential likelihood and impact of any identified risks. And that often includes quantifying the severity of consequences multiplied by the probability of the occurrence. How likely is it going to be that it happens? And so by doing this, and by categorizing our risks based on these factors, we can prioritize those most critical risks that require immediate attention and immediate mitigation. So when we put these three together, we get something really powerful. We can look forward in the future, assessing the risks and also quantifying the costs and benefits of potential action. Let's talk about solution design. And we do solution design to help translate our requirements into completed, actionable plans. Now, one key aspect of solution design is, and from an ESG perspective, is to ensure that sustainability is not seen as an add-on, but is actually integrated into the core of business processes. Now, I've seen firsthand where decisions are made on financial grounds, and then someone has this like genius idea and says, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, I know that we're doing this to save money, but let's just say we're doing it to save the environment because we're gonna need less paper and less stuff." Now, this is a practice that's typically called greenwashing. And greenwashing is this phenomenon where organizations tack on environmental benefits for good PR. Now, here's the thing. That company wasn't wrong in saying that, they were going to save the environment because they were going to need less paper. It just wasn't the driving factor. The driving factor was we're going to save some money. So to say we're doing it for the environment, for good press, for good rep, for clout, no, your heart has to be in the right place. The intent matters. Now we have a huge opportunity to foster meaningful integration between ESG, innovation, and financial impacts. As analysts, we can recommend key opportunities and ensure that ESG considerations are embedded in the solution. Now, what that means is we've got to be creative, but we've got to be pragmatic in how we leverage the skills within us. Solution design for sustainability and for governance initiatives can be intricate, can be complex, but it's so worth it. Our skills in collaboration, in innovation, in KPIs, in metric development, and in understanding the bigger picture can be harnessed to create a more sustainable solution that propels your organization toward a more resilient future. One of the most critical roles that BAs play today is in stakeholder management. And I like to describe stakeholder management as the art of business analysis. So there's the science, there's the how do I make a context diagram, how do I, build write a user story. That, you can go and take a course and learn that. But how do you engage your stakeholders? How do you build relationships with them? That's the art. And really, that's the harder part. So, how can you leverage your skills? Well, we can continue to build effective channels of communication. We can build consensus with our stakeholders. And we can consider diverse perspectives from within and also from beyond the organization. We all know that projects, that initiatives, that the work that we do is more successful when our stakeholders are engaged. So in the realm of ESG, this means fostering a culture of sustainability and transparency that proliferates throughout the organization. Now, this is probably going to be the most challenging thing that I suggest to you because it might actually require a seismic shift in your entire organizational culture if ESG is not part of that culture. So be prepared to act as a facilitator and, I'll be honest, sometimes therapist. When we do our stakeholder analysis, we need to understand the expectations, the concerns, the interests of our stakeholders. And we want to understand that diversity of thought, that diversity of perspective. So we're building relationships. We're navigating the waters of different opinions, different priorities, and we're aligning these diverse perspectives towards a common goal. So by fostering collaboration and understanding, you can contribute to the creation of that sustainable culture within your organization. In the context of ESG, communication, analysis, and relationship building are massive and can enable you to help support creating that sustainable and that inclusive approach to stakeholder engagement in your organization. Now, change is just what we do, isn't it? It's inherent in our work, it's inherent in our role, it's inherent in our organizations and in our projects. But in the context of ESG, it takes on a new, a profound dimension. ESG projects often include a cultural shift and require us to challenge some established norms and practices that exist. Having come from the public sector and working in government, let me tell you about established norms and practices. It is hard to steer a battleship, or to turn a battleship rather. So talk about making that shift is it is a challenge. So here's some common change management tactics that you can use to help you support ESG initiatives in your organizations. One, develop and implement communication strategies that foster awareness and understanding of the reasons why ESG matters. So it's not just the what and the how, but the why. We need to articulate the broader purpose and the broader benefits of sustainable practices. Training programs offer another are another key component of change management. So we can work with different teams within our organization, learning and development, HR, whoever owns training for your organization, to help develop programs that equip employees with the knowledge and skills that they need to contribute to and embrace ESG. One such example, not available yet, but the forthcoming Vince developed course on LinkedIn Learning, ESG for BAs. Working title, it'll probably be something different. But any training that you do should extend, plug. Any training that you do should extend beyond just the operational, like what changes in their process and in their work, but gives them a deeper understanding of the ethical and social implications and dimensions of sustainability and ESG. And lastly, when it comes to change, never forget that you are an advocate for change. And that means addressing concerns, dispelling myths, and being a champion for the positive aspects of ESG within your organization. So you've got to create a supportive and an empowered environment where employees feel motivated to contribute to sustainability efforts. So that's the stuff we do. Now let's talk about the stuff we need to be aware of. And I'll cover this at a fairly high level because I do want to leave some time for questions. So what can we do, and how can we be more aware, and how can we continue to develop beyond this webinar? One of the first things that we can do is to monitor the regulatory environment. And regulatory environments for ESG are constantly evolving. Governments, international bodies, and governments at all levels, by the way, are introducing new standards and requirements to address the growing importance of sustainability and ESG in the business world. Now, you can play a role in monitoring these changes and ensuring that organizations comply with any changed and relevant policy and legislation. This doesn't have to be something hard. For me, I just have a Google alert that every day scrapes articles, sends me an email, and says, here are some things that you want to read. So when we say monitoring the regulatory environment, it doesn't have to be hard, right? We can make it easy. Another way that you can do it is by attending industry conferences, right? I'm planning on taking this webinar live on the road, and by attending a conference, you can hear this message. And so you can learn and become aware and start to build your skill. So monitoring the regulatory environment sounds very heady. It's not. Now let's talk about measuring success, because ultimately we need to prove that we're moving the needle. So we need metrics, we need KPIs, we need OKRs, whatever your preferred approach to metric development is. Our metrics need to cover a very broad spectrum, because we're going to be measuring different things, and we're going to be measuring those things based on what your organizational strategies are. So some sample environmental metrics include carbon footprint reduction, energy consumption, water consumption, waste output. Social metrics might include diversity and inclusion measures, employee engagement. Who's not a fan of employee engagement surveys? Gender, I love them. They are valuable. I'm just joking. Gender pay gap, and KPIs related to health and safety. And when we talk about governance, we can measure governance, the impact of governance through indicators like ethical business practices, transparency, executive pay ratio, taxes paid by an organization, so that they're not, sort of leveraging the system to pay as little tax as possible. They're paying their fair share. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, but it serves as an example of some common metrics. Ultimately, your metrics, the things that matter to you and to your organization, will be driven by strategy and what matters to your organization. What needle are they trying to move? Now, ESG, speaking of strategy, ESG is not a standalone concept, but is integral to your company's overall approach. And we need to align the ESG objectives with your organization's mission, vision, and values. To do that, we need to get a deep understanding of what your organization's strategy is. What is it that you're trying to achieve? You can do that typically by just reviewing your documented mission, vision, and goals, but also by engaging with stakeholders to understand what's driving the business forward. I've been in places where you have a stated strategy, but then everything that you do contradicts it. So what actually matters? By understanding that broader strategic context, you can recommend and support specific outcomes and performance indicators that align with that objective. So if your organization's objective is to contribute to the environmental benefit, well, then you're going to focus on that, the carbon footprint, the waste reduction. Those are things that are going to matter to you. It's not that the others don't matter, but your focus is going to be on what ultimately drives your organizational strategy forward. And as if you didn't already have enough to think about, let me add on the need to navigate the complexity of ESG by managing and identifying and managing risks, while at the same time ensuring compliance with any industry standards. This is a lot to put on you. Sorry. Now, what that means is, for us, we help in identifying potential challenges, from regulatory changes to impacts to reputational risk, to understanding the operational and any supply chain disruptions. By doing our risk analysis, we can help our organization anticipate and mitigate potential obstacles in support of ESG projects. So you're already contributing to strategy by aligning risk to specific goals and objectives, and we do that to create value. Let's put it all together. I've got some questions for you, and please feel free to come off mute. I'm going to just open up the camera so I can see you a little bit better. Feel free to come off, but I just want to test the group, or you can put it in the chat, whatever you want. Let's go through some examples. So a tech company, you tell me which aspect of ESG we're talking about here, and hopefully I've done a good enough job that It should be clear to you. So a tech company discovers one of its major suppliers in a developing country is not providing fair wages to its workers and has been violating labor laws. What do you think, folks? Environmental, social, governance impact. What do you think? And I'll monitor the chat as well in case. Social, we've got one vote for social. Social, all right. Yeah, I mean, I would say the biggest one is social. Well, I can't do it with the thing here. Move here. Oh, it did come out. It is social. I would actually also consider governance as an option if anyone thought governance, because who decided to engage with a supplier in a developing country? So it's a bit of both, and I think that demonstrates that it's not one or the other. There's usually a blend. In this case, though, I agree. Social is the dominant element. So great work, everyone. All right, let's go to number 2. A consumer goods company wants to redesign its packaging to reduce environmental impact without significantly increasing costs. What do we think? Environmental, social. All right. Anyone else? Going once. Environmental and social. All right. Environmental, but maybe social. Yes, very good. You guys, you all reading my mind. So that's fantastic. All right, let's go on to the next one. A large mining company operates in a remote area, significantly impacting the local community and environment. I mean, I'm not even going to waste time because I do want to leave some time for questions. This is environmental. Clearly, I used environmental like 3 times in that sentence. Maybe not the best. I kind of gave it away. That's on me. All right, last one. A financial services firm is expanding its digital offerings, but faces increased risks related to data privacy and cybersecurity threats. What do we think, folks? Got the chat. Social and governance. All right. So one vote for social and governance. You feel free to also come off mute. I like hearing people's voices. It makes me feel like I'm not alone talking into the ether. Governance, primarily governance. It looks like governance and social. It's governance. But again, you're not wrong. There's a little bit of an element of social there as well. So it's not, yes, governance is probably the dominant, but there's elements of social there as well. Great work, everyone. 50 points to Gryffindor. Well done. And I'm glad you got the right answers. That makes me happy. Okay. Please put your tray table up and put your seat back into the upright position. We're beginning our approach. So folks, as much as I joke, we're at a pivotal moment in our world. And it was an incredible aha for me when I realized that through my work as a BA, I had the ability to make a contribution to the future of the world. All of those tiny changes, all of those little projects, all of those little things that we do, compounded over time, become new products, processes, services, but also become new behaviors, new attitudes, and new ways of thinking. And if we do that in support of your organization's ESG goals, that's massive. I do it because it helps me achieve my ultimate goal, which, not meant as a downer, but it's to leave this place better than it was when I got here. Organizations worldwide grapple with embracing sustainable practices, and that means that we have an opportunity as business analysts to emerge as catalysts for change. It's important that you recognize that the role of business analysis in ESG extends beyond just our functional responsibilities. We need to be advocates for sustainability. We need to be driving awareness. We need to be fostering collaboration and championing responsible business practices. This is our opportunity, and we are perfectly skilled, perfectly positioned to do so. And what that means is that I'm asking you not only to contribute to the success of individual projects that you're working on, but also to contribute to the broader cultural shift toward a more sustainable and ethical business environment. With that, thank you very much. What questions do you have at this time?
Hi, Vincent. This is Ronnie. Thank
Hey,
you
Ronnie.
for the presentation. It has been so interesting, and the value that we as a business analyst might provide to the organization, using by applying this ESG consideration. So definitely it's a world class, philosophy that we need to understand and starting working with these components.
Thank you, Ronnie. I appreciate that, and I hope I hope that folks get the idea, or get, I hope I've made it clear that, like, I'm asking you to do something new, but it's not new. This is like, we're doing this work anyway. We just need to be sure that we're cognizant of and aware of how the decisions we make impact these. So I'm asking you to put an additional lens in front of you as you're making decisions and doing the work that you're doing. But I'm not asking you to do anything new. But thank you, Ronnie. I appreciate that.
Thanks. So one question that I have is how AI might impact all that the ESG considerations in the modern world that we have now.
Yeah. So that's a really good question. And I'll tell you, one of the so I'm gonna give you a non-answer. I don't know yet, because
Mhm.
I'm still figuring that out.
Mhm.
It was about a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, as I was putting this deck together, that I had that realization of, like, man, AI can really um, support our shift to ESG awareness. Um, I haven't figured out how, but I would say AI, just generally speaking, AI is
Mhm.
going to be a catalyst for a lot of growth. And so I don't know how it's going to enable, but I know that it will have a significant impact. I can't give you a specific answer today. Talk to me in a couple months, and I'll probably have an answer for you.
Sure, thanks.
Yeah. Sorry, I hate giving you a non-answer. One thing that I will say this. One one thing that drives me nuts when I see people posting about AI on, like, LinkedIn or online, is that they see it as a productivity tool. And I don't see it that way. I see AI as a tool for social good. I'll give you an example. And this, I'm borrowing this, but I'll also say, like, I've contributed to a lot of these discussions. So a couple months ago, someone that you all might know, Fabricio Laguna, the Brazilian BA, posted a video where he was interacting with his AI. At some point in the future, he was interacting with his AI as he was out playing tennis, and he was solving a business problem. And to me, that's what AI is going to enable. So if you think about what he didn't actually explicitly say, but what was said in that video is, AI is going to enable me to have a better social life. I'm interested to see where we go with AI, and how organizations take AI as, if they take it through the lens of productivity, then it's going to be, well, great, what else can I add to your workload to fill your 8, 9, 10 hours a day? Or will some companies, just as, coming out of the pandemic, there were companies that said, nope, we're remote only, you never need to come into the office, and they are going to win in the long term. Will some companies say, well, now that we have AI, I don't need you to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I only need you 4 hours a day. I'm still going to pay you the same, but I don't need you as much because we're getting the benefit of AI. I think that's an interesting aspect. I've thought it fully through, but I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. So hopefully that was a bit of an answer for you, Ronnie.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, you're giving us more clues to continue thinking about it.
I'm leading you to the water. You got to drink it, right? I'm taking you there, but yeah.
All right, let's see. One more question that I have here. All right. There
Yeah,
was a question.
Harshita. Yeah, sorry, sorry, Ronnie.
Okay. So there was a case study I read where AI was being used to analyze elephant migration route and behavior data and use that to predict poacher behavior and help plan to the routes of anti-poaching rangers. Oh, yeah,
Beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah,
We're still scratching the surface of what AI, generative AI specifically. AI has been around forever, but we're just scratching the surface of what generative AI is going to do for us. Like, if you think about it, we only started thinking about generative AI in November of 2022 with OpenAI, with ChatGPT, right? Like, we're still early. It's like baby steps. We're still so early, but that's a really cool case study.
definitely yes. All right. Does anybody have any other questions?
Speak now.
Feel free to open your microphone just in case.
Still processing all the information. I didn't throw that much at you, did I? Maybe I did. Maybe I overloaded the group. My bad.
Yeah. All right. So just in case we can wrap it up right here. And okay, let's see. Okay? We have some news. We have some questions.
Hmm.
Is ESG a left value?
So I don't know what does Pierre, what does that mean, left?
Yeah.
And
Here,
feel free to come off mute.
we need more information maybe to answer
Yeah,
that question.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I just need a little context.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Yeah, it
All
was.
good.
Yeah, left what I'm talking about a political spectrum, like is it a progressive value or?
Yeah, so I mean, I I think it depends on who you ask, and I'll come at this, Pierre. I'll give you full background. My background is in the political sciences, so you want to talk about the political spectrum, that I lived and breathed that throughout my degree. Um, is it a left? Is it a left value? I think it depends on your definition of left and right. I would say, um, based on your position, you probably see it to the left of you, but I I don't see it as a left versus right. I think it's just, and maybe this is just my own centrist view. I see it as a necessity whether you're on the left or the right. I don't see it as a political. I know, I recognize and I acknowledge that it will be leveraged as political ammunition, but I don't see it as a left versus right debate. I think it's going to be the way it is. So in the end, I don't care, right? Like, if folks on the left want to tout the environmental benefits, cool. If folks on the right want to tout the financial benefits, cool. Like, I I don't see it as a political, and maybe this is very naive, but I don't see it as a political necessity. It's just it's it it's an important piece of the future, and I think we it's not a left or right. I'll say that.
All right, so we have more
Yeah.
questions here,
Yeah.
Vincent. How
Yep.
can ESG be applied to such organization where majority of the work is in tech development?
Yeah. So if you're working on tech development, doesn't mean that you can ignore ESG initiatives. You can look at, the suppliers of your components, your pieces, your technology. So that's one way. Do they engage in nefarious practices, or are they good corporate citizens themselves? So thinking about the holistic supply chain of your inputs, right? So where is your stuff coming from? A lot of companies have faced significant backlash because of their questionable suppliers. So that's one piece of it. But also you can find opportunities to leverage energy, electricity, power differently. So are you engaged in carbon offsets for your production? I know this is the big thing in like the cryptocurrency space, like but those servers create a lot of heat. So are you able to capture that heat and leverage it and heat space so that you're not wasting it? So it's about maximizing what you've got. It's not about just, so I think every organization can be conscious of ESG initiatives. I don't think tech is immune, and I say that now as a tech researcher. Like, this is everyone needs to play a part. Different organizations, different industries are going to have different roles to play, but everybody needs to be aware.
Yeah.
Can I mention a few ESG frameworks? I actually took that slide out. There are a few that maybe I'll add a slide before I send it over and put some frameworks in. There's many that are in use globally. There are not a lot that are in use in organizations, and so I think that probably presents a gap. That probably presents a gap for large organizations or medium and large organizations that don't have a framework that they can really attach to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from a reporting perspective, there's a lot of them. There's it's late. It feels later than it probably is, but there's the GRE initiative, which the global something, the acronym escapes me. But there are some initiatives that do provide guidance on reporting specifically. And maybe I misunderstood the use of frameworks. I was thinking of like implementation within an organization. So, but there are some reporting frameworks. Again, I'll add a slide and I'll add some notes and throw that in. After cloud computing started, most ITs depended on Amazon and Microsoft. Easy to blame them for anything related to. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's an interesting way of mitigate. It's a strategy for mitigating risk, right? One of the things that you can do is accept the risk. Another thing that you can do is transfer the risk. So by leveraging cloud, you've transferred the risk to a larger organization. Now, I think then what's interesting is, what are Amazon and Microsoft and Google and all the large organizations, what are they doing to contribute to ESG initiatives?
Any other question, guys? All right, I think we are good.
Cool.
We are good for now, right? So Vincent, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. It has been a pleasure to have you. And I think we need to have you again for a second part, please.
Any on frameworks. Anytime, Ronnie.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And for all the attendees, thank you for this for joining this presentation, and have a great night, guys. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.